Even if I don't mention it, someone else has to do it.
Ignore Honorable Gina. I think on this panel, I think myself and the rest of the panels exist in two different generations. And that is why there is a mentality that when the parents are involved in the lives of children, then children become better. And that most of the tribulations we have today are because of lack of parental involvement in the lives of the children. Now, this line of argument always excuses the parent, and I do not entirely agree with it. Why? Because I think that some of the children are spoiled today because their parents are involved in their lives. Mm-hmm. Some of these children would even be doing much better if their parents were not involved in their lives. Because just because you are a parent, it does not mean you come with a manual of wisdom. Because you can still be a stupid person who becomes a parent.
Mundalo.
So it does not necessarily mean it does not necessarily mean that parenthood comes with a certain manual of wisdom. Most of the reality is that today, the reason and the validation that we're talking about, it's very different in the context that Mheshimiwa speaks of and in the context that it is today. Before, the validation was meant to be able to push you to the next foot forward. Today's validation is not necessarily because you are even justified to have it. In the previous generation, you did something that was good, and then you are told you have done the right thing. Today, you do something that is pathetic, but still we are fearful as parents to tell you that it's wrong, so we try and cover it and then look for something that can validate the wrong. And that starts becoming part of the problem. And that's why Challengeon said that even when the children banned schools, the parents feared to go and say, you kids are wrong. They started looking for someone else to blame, and we shifted the blame. So today's child, someone is always taking the burden of responsibility away from them. And that's why the child today grows up knowing that they are absolutely right because they are children. So when they get to a certain level and then somebody shares a different opinion from theirs, they have not been wired to understand that someone can have a different opinion. We are therefore a generation whereby idealism, politics, and personality have been lumped together. And that's why I want you to look at yourself, and supposing you are a person who supports the government, I want you to ask yourself, how do you always feel when the other person tells you they don't? If your first response is hate, then you are part of the problem. If you are on the other side, and when we meet and I tell you I support President Ruto because I'm thinking he's doing a very good thing, your first response is that you start hating me, then you are part and parcel of the problem because you are lumping the idea, the person, and the politics together. Because we have not been taught tolerance, that we can be able to understand that this one can have a different idea, I can be able to have a different idea, and we can actually coexist. And that's why when you go to the campuses today, unfortunately, there is even response of suicide to relationship challenges. Why? Because we are also a generation that is just not used to disagreement. So because she has rejected you, the next thing is you feel that the right thing for you to be is dead.
Aye.
And sometimes we even think that when we die, we punish the ones alive. We are so vengeful that that becomes our line of thought. And this idea of mixing, putting the idea, the politics, and the person together is part and parcel of the problem. And that's why today I'll challenge you that some of you are seated, but you are only waiting for something bad to be said about the finance bill. Your wiring and your brain is not willing to listen to something positive. Why? Because to you, you have already decided your agenda first before the objective. So to you, you are seated and you're waiting. In fact, every day you hear something positive, you feel like you are losing. You are that kind of person. We are so malicious today that sometimes you sit with people and when they hear someone saying SHA has worked for them in a hospital, they get annoyed. Like you're getting annoyed because someone was able to be treated and government paid for it, and that has annoyed you. We are seated today as a society whereby you look at it and people are able to say, when someone talks about things like fertilizer subsidy, and fertilizer is 2,500, when you sit with some farmer and he tells you that, I used to buy this thing at almost 8,000, and today, just last week when I was planting, I bought it at 2,500. Your first instinct is to get annoyed that we kwenda we umelipwa. Because you first of all have decided, someone has ensured that there is agenda setting in your head. So to you, everything must then align with an agenda that is already predetermined. You are not willing to listen to anything or hear anything objectively. And that becomes part and parcel of the problem. If I can just respond quickly to something that someone asked about how do you know whether someone is telling you the right thing or the wrong thing. And I've always argued that always ask yourself why. When someone tells you that, for instance, the finance bill is bad, ask yourself, why is the person telling me that the finance bill is bad? Is it because they are interested in the well-being of my life, or they are interested in their own agenda that they are working on? The moment you get that answer, you'll be able to align things differently. Because most of the time, people are aligning you to their agenda, not to your agenda. And that's why they'll only feed you what serves them, not what serves you. Then there was a very good question about only professionals are supposed to comment. And I'll respond to it the same way I respond to the issue of parents. Being a professional in anything does not mean you have intelligence. If anything, all the people outside there who are talking all the nonsense that we are hearing are all professionals in something. I know of a girl who is on TikTok who I hear talking a lot of gibberish, but I hear she's a teacher. Qualified teacher, she went to school and all that. So just because you went to school and achieved some certification, it does not emancipate you from being sometimes an intellectual dwarf. So sometimes you are just an intellectual dwarf who has some papers from a university or from some college.
Certified intellectual dwarf.
Exactly. So the truth is that there are things that we cannot legislate, and we must not run away from the issue. If we are just having bad manners, let us confront and say, honestly, guys, we're having bad manners. We are advancing wrongly in our morals. Let us face that. Because tell me how we are going to legislate someone going on social media and just talking nonsense, insulting people and all that. You'll be shocked, my brother, that even the person who burnt the girl who had a tattoo of President Ruto was a professional in something. Maybe even in disaster management. So professionalism in itself is not a solution. We must just confront the reality and say, we as a generation, especially, and I've always confronted we, the younger generation, we must confront each other and tell ourselves the truth. That sometimes we are just being unfair. Sometimes it is us who are just being undemocratic. And sometimes it's just us who are consuming half-baked realities. And one of the biggest problems is that we think we know. The most dangerous place to be in life is a place where you know almost nothing, but you think you know. And you think you're the one who should be telling people. And unfortunately, most of us in the younger generation, especially the Gen Z generation, is that we think we know and everyone else is supposed to be listening to us. So sometimes everything that is getting out of our mouths is safer inside than outside, but we are busy putting it out.
Thank you, Mundalo, for that. I think you...
Yeah, I think what you meant in